All right, so now I can move that sticky note. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our little chat this morning about career readiness in the summer, featuring the Career and College and Career Readiness Toolkit, which is a product that came out of the Maryland Out of School Time Network. And you will learn a lot more about it as we go through this morning. So I'm not going to give too much of an introduction to it there. But I wanted to start off with a little bit of intro. I'm Steph Grimes. I am a curriculum designer and educational consultant working primarily with youth serving organizations and folks focusing on the out of school time space. I was the lead author on the College and Career Readiness Toolkit. And I'm a former kindergarten teacher. I taught and worked in out of school time for over a decade, following teaching in the classroom. So I've got a mix of both formal and informal ed background. Informal is definitely where my heart is. And I'm a former director of programs at Digital Harbor Foundation out of Baltimore, and born and raised in Baltimore my whole life. So since it's such a small group, we can take a couple minutes if everybody just wants to come off mute and give a little intro to themselves and what brought them in this morning. Angela, can we start with you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Angela. I'm the assistant company manager of Voices of Carmen. Our parent company is Dances and Be More. We're a youth serving organization. And I came here because in a couple of weeks, actually, our program will be starting. And we train youth in Baltimore about the arts, and we host a musical at the end of the program. It's really fun.
That's so awesome. That's exciting. All right, I'm just going to go down my list if that's okay with everyone. Christina, you're up next. Oh, we can't hear you. There we go.
Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Christina Romano. I am the program coordinator for a STEM program that runs out of Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab. And so it's for 8th through 12th graders. We also have a high school intern program. And so I'm here to learn more since we have students starting next week. So they're picking up laptops this week and starting next week, and how to support them throughout the summer. We've seen a lot of students struggle this year, and I'm looking forward to resources to really help them to be better prepared, especially for their internship in the future.
That's awesome. All right, nice to meet you, Christina and Angela. Is it Sonia? All right, you're up.
Hey ladies, my name is Sonia. I just accepted the supervisor position at the RISE Arts Center of Baltimore Incorporated. So I'll be doing part of the Teen Arts Collective program. And I'm really excited because I'm back working with kids. I love kids. So just being around that energy, I miss it. Adults can be a lot, right? And we can be so tired, so boring, but they always have that energy going, and I miss it so much. So I'm looking forward to it. Just meeting them, see how I can just, have an impact, and what I can learn from them, honestly. I think we forget that we can learn so much from youth. So I'm very excited about it.
That's great. Congrats on the new position. Hope it goes well. I love your tenet about learning from them. I think that is often a missing piece of youth development work, is that reciprocation that goes back and forth.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you, Sonia. Carly?
Hi, everybody. My name is Carly. I just accepted a position along with Sonia for the summer. I personally am a graphic designer and illustrator, and I just graduated from college in 2020. I'm excited to work with kids because I was one of these kids not too long ago, and I'm excited to inspire young artists and show them how to be able to do these things professionally and how it can help with their academics and as well as any disabilities they may have.
That's great. It's great to meet you, Carly. Thanks for joining us. Andrea, I don't know if you're around, if you can hear us, if you'd like to come off mute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm with Baltimore's Promise, so I'm just here taking notes.
Okay.
not participating, but it's great to see y'all and I hope it's a great session.
Thank you. And I think it's Cameron. I know you just joined us. We're doing quick introductions. Good morning. Would you like to give a brief intro of yourself and what brought you in this morning?
Absolutely. So I am Cameron Jiggers. I am the executive director and founder of Rise Art Center of Baltimore. And so we are doing a very, very fun program this summer where we will have teens learn college career readiness, but also entrepreneurship skills to create their own arts-based business. So very, very interested in the topic. I have my 2 staff members here as well. So we are excited and ready.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you all joined us this morning. I know it's a small group. Maybe that means we'll be able to move through things a little bit more quickly and gift you back some of your time at the end. If at any point you've got something you would like to contribute, feel free to come off mute or drop something in the chat. I've got the chat window open as well to be able to see some of that. So if you see my eyes moving all over the place, that's what's happening. Trying to manage all the pieces in this new Zoom life we live. So I wanted to start off with a quick little poll just to get you thinking about sort of career readiness, and some of these pieces lend themselves to college readiness too, of course, right? There's a lot of overlap between those two and what it takes to prepare for both of those experiences. And certainly the way that they're nested together. So I wanted to ask, at what age do you think students need to start preparing for college and or career readiness? So you can just drop your letter in the chat. No need to come off mute for this quick little poll. So we've got A, ages 5 to 10. B, you know what? You can't see this because I'm not sharing my screen. That would be extremely helpful, wouldn't it? Let me see. Which one of these do I want? Sorry about that, everyone. I remembered to record, forgot to do the rest. Oops. Okay. All right. So like I said, if you just want to go ahead and drop your, whoops. All right, sorry, y'all, I lost my chat window. There we go. All right. Sorry for that kerfuffle. All right, so it looks like the majority of folks are thinking, thanks, Angela, for the camaraderie and the technical difficulty, right? Everything works great when you practice. Looks like most people are thinking that middle school age, right? 11 to 13. B, a couple of folks saying ages 14 to 18. Really looking in at that. And yes, we also agree, middle school is a great time to start. I'm actually a big proponent of start the earlier, the better. And so we've designed the toolkit really to incorporate activities and really bring college and career readiness down at least into the middle school level, right? So really starting those activities and those foundations in middle school. We're actually in talks about a revision to the toolkit that would focus on activities for elementary school students. So future, keep your eyes out for that sometime in the next few years. So I love this quote. This is a quote from Toby Baker Wright, who is a former senior program manager for Jobs for the Future. And it's good career exploration today is working to develop things in young people, the ability to work as part of a team, the ability to communicate effectively, personal responsibility that help them have agency in making decisions about their careers. And I just think that speaks so well to what we do in out of school time, because that is a large part of our focus, right? Is working to sort of support them in the skills that they may not be developing as deeply in school with all of the content education that they need to receive there. So the role of OST programs in college career readiness can look like a lot of different things, but three main roles that programs like ours can play is raising aspirations for college and career, right? I heard a few of you sort of talk about that in your work and things that you're hoping to achieve with your youth. Fostering 21st century skills and connecting youth to workforce, right? Really being a bridge between your program and opportunities that they may not be otherwise introduced to or exposed to. And that is particularly true in STEM careers, right? There's been a large focus over the last decade or so in STEM, in out of school time and in STEM education in general. And so there's always that sort of like, it works in this area too. So you all can play a pretty critical role in this idea of starting early, really, and continuously incorporating career and college readiness, right? If you think back, I mean, if I think back to my own education, which was a while ago now, definitely not as near as Carly's education was. You know, my experience was really, we were told we were the college going generation. That was what we were expected to do. And that was just what we were told. And then we got to high school and some guidance counselors maybe talked to us about what those experiences would be like. But I was a first generation college going student. My parents didn't go to college. So I was one of the first people in my family. I had one uncle who had gone before me. So we were the blind leading the blind, so to speak, in that, and really working our way through that experience, which drives my passion and interest in really helping folks to help young people really navigate this world and start much earlier and get a deeper foundation in that. So really helping to develop activities and culture and mindset around future success and what that can look like. Providing guidance, support, inspiration for students' career and college pathways, right? Your college and career pathways are all unique to you, and you bring so much different vibrancy to that story and interest to that. And so being able to just share your story with someone else in sort of that trusting youth adult relationship can really, you know, put a new perspective on it, right? They may hear that differently coming from someone that they've met through their out of school time program, and they may feel more closely bonded to than a generic guidance counselor at school if they get to see them, right? And then helping to remove barriers and open new avenues, right? Again, just going back to that, how can we think about this problem differently than schools because we're smaller, we're more agile, we have more community connections, we have different community connections, and really leveraging those pieces of what makes your program unique and what you all bring to the table as youth development professionals, and how to navigate that world in a different way than what they're getting at school. So they can kind of act and supplement to one another. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the toolkit because we're going to be referencing it throughout. This isn't specifically driven to the toolkit, but a lot of the resources there, it's a robust document or resource. And so I want to, of course, share it with you because I think it'll be really valuable for you all to be able to go back, especially as you're working through your programs this summer. So the College and Career Readiness Toolkit is a product of MOST, as I said earlier. It's a comprehensive guide to help middle and high school, out of school time programs specifically. You could certainly use the resources and things in school as well, or in some other context with youth, but really get laser focused on how to build 21st century skills and support young people as they navigate through the complicated and complex world of planning for their future. It is a free resource. It's available on the MOST website, and I'll give you all a link to that. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat. There we go. So that bit.ly link will take you directly to that page. It's all PDFs. It's hosted in PDF form so that the units and the resources and everything can be downloaded and saved, and you can repurpose them and use them how you see fit. So that link will take you to all of that. And then we're going to be referencing things throughout. So if you want to take a peek at it at some point, feel free. You don't have to do that right now. All right, so diving a little bit deeper, a little bit more information about the toolkit. The purpose of the toolkit, again, is to provide practical how-tos, activities, and lots and lots and lots of resources to help you bridge the information, awareness, and opportunity gap for students. And again, it's really looking at everything through an OST lens. Help you increase opportunities to expose youth to exploring career and college options and what that looks like, and different ways that you can do that. That might work more effectively or better outside of school. And then bringing those intentional career and college readiness activities to middle school youth, as I said, really sort of bringing it down. And again, I think we're all pretty good at taking things and adapting them. I'd like to, I'm gonna put that vote of confidence in all of y'all's corner, that you're good at adapting resources and aging up and bringing down where you need to, and trusting that you are the professionals to be able to do that. So while things may say they have a middle school lens or they have a high school lens, they can certainly be adapted in either direction to best serve the youth that you're working with. Here's a look at the overview of the units that are included, right? So we're looking specifically at principles, how to guide you through those decisions, foundational skills. We're going to talk a lot about that today. We're going to talk a lot about career readiness today. Alternative post-secondary options. We have a whole section on that. So what does it look like if you decide college isn't for you, or a typical four-year college experience is not for you? And then college readiness. Inside each unit, there's an area overview or a focus area overview, right? Giving you some context about that topic. Lots of relevant research, how-tos, guided activities, accompanying student worksheets and activity guides and supplemental resources. And then this was written in 2020, so definitely in the midst of the pandemic and definitely in the height of the pandemic. So where appropriate and where we had the information at the time, resources have been provided about how COVID may have changed, how the pandemic may have changed processes or things like that. And we'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later. Our goal for you using the toolkit is to make a difference with the youth in your programs, right? The youth that you see every day and that you work with and that you believe in and want them to have the best future that they can possibly have, and helping to support you in how do I open up more options to them? How do I provide them more education in this area or more support in this area? Increasing the quality and frequency that students are exposed to college and career readiness, right? Again, hitting that as hard as your program allows or you want to. And again, in Baltimore City specifically, students are not getting this information from school in a lot of cases, right? The ratio of guidance counselors to students is far less than what is ideal in Baltimore City. I had those numbers are in the toolkit. I have them in a different presentation, but it's where I think folks like us come into play, right? We have a different relationship with our youth, and we can really play to that strength in supporting them. And again, just creating more opportunities, right, to practice and apply the skills necessary. We have more time, we have more bandwidth for things like that versus in school where they're trying to shove it in between English and math and science and whatever, content areas they're trying to teach. And why not in summer? As most of you said, your programs are getting ready to go. So hopefully today I will be able to provide you with some ideas of things that might work for you in the coming weeks. All right, so here's another quick little poll. I'm just going to ask you to drop your response in the chat. And I realize that this is a spectrum, right? I'm just trying to get a good idea of where folks are coming in at. So how much CCR is embedded in your work already at this point? So are you currently all career focused? You're down at the sort of 1, 2 end. 2 would be a mix between sort of between 1 and 3, right? So all career focused or all non-CCR youth development, right? Are you doing none of this work so far? 4 would be a mix between that and all college focused, with 5 sort of being, we do mostly college focused things. So if you have a sense of where you might fall, I see them coming in the chat. All right, it looks like most folks, everybody is at the 2 mark very firmly, somewhere between sort of doing other youth development and career focused things. So you are definitely in the right place. And hopefully I can still add to the resources and tools that you all already have. So thank you for participating in that little poll. All right, so this is probably my biggest soapbox personally when it comes to college and career, and that is to start with the end in mind, right? This means putting career first, thinking about the career that you want, right? And that means with middle schools, with middle schoolers, really exploring what are the careers available to you that we know of right now, right? Because let's face it, by the time those middle schoolers graduate from high school, go on to whatever post-secondary experiences they're going to have, the world is going to be a different place. And the careers of that landscape are going to be different than what we can predict right now with the way that things are, how quickly technology is moving and developing things. But really thinking about what is it that you're interested in, and let's work backwards from there, rather than let's just continue on into college, into mounds of debt, without a clue of what we really want to do on the outset of that, or we're not really sure, we just know this is the next step. It's a huge undertaking. It's not like moving from middle school to high school, right? Where that's generally, for most youth, that's a free and public education that they're pursuing. It's a totally different game. And so until college becomes a free next step from high school, there should be more weight and more thought given to it. And so the toolkit very much takes a career-focused approach versus a college-focused approach, right? The goal is not necessarily for everyone to go to a 4-year college. That may not be the right choice for them based on what they would like to do in a job or a career in the future. So these questions here are just some things that you can start to think of and ask your youth as they're doing some of this exploration, and things that they're thinking about is, what type of education or experience do I need for the job that I'm interested in, or the career that I'm interested in? What is the expected entry-level salary range, right? And this comes from this question of, there's an example in the toolkit of a college student who wanted to be a elementary school teacher, but also wanted to go to a private college. So spent tens of thousands of dollars on a degree that she was not earning that matched when she came out of college, right? At a starting teacher's salary with a bachelor's degree. And so really considering that, keeping that in mind, because that's a reality of it, right? And that's more a reality of it for youth these days than I think it was for youth of my generation, where there were more loans, their tuition wasn't as expensive. If you were in state, you were getting a pretty good deal. But those factors have all shifted and changed over time. And so really using that lens, not to deter them, but to really have them thinking through the best choice for them for going forward. And the best choice for them might be that private college education for whatever reasons they list, or that they and their family can identify. But it might not be, right? It might be some alternative to that. Which learning institutions might best suit my career, right? Do I need to go to a 4-year college if I really want to be a mechanic and own my own auto shop, right? Probably not, right? You might be better suited going to a technical trade school, right? And looking at those options. And then what extracurricular activities, right? Bringing it down again to that middle school level. What things would be of interest to me and get me more experience as I'm going through this experience, right? So that they can start thinking about that as they go into high school. High schoolers can start thinking about that as they join clubs in college, if they're going to college, those kinds of things. And then my second soapbox moment is that changing your mind is absolutely, I need to change the slide to say normal and okay and encouraged, right? They are going to, from the time that maybe we only have a middle school program, for example, right? By the time those middle schoolers leave our program, they go on to high school. Again, they're maybe going into college or whatever comes after high school for them. That world is going to look different. The tapestry, the options available to them are going to look different than we could have predicted back then. So how in the world could they pick a career, right? And at this point, we've got youth really starting that process in middle school as they go through school choice, right? And they're picking which middle school they want to go to, that then is going to lead them to high school, that then is going to lead them to whichever college is most suitable from that. And so we're really asking children at very young ages to start making decisions about a world that they cannot relate to at all as young people. So letting them know that it is okay to change their mind, because I think that would relieve some of the pressure of, what if I get it wrong? What if I make the wrong choice here at 12 years old and I don't pick the right middle school, or I don't pick the right high school, or the right clubs or experiences? It's important that they know they're not locked in to this for the rest of their lives. And that's important for them to know at all ages and stages of this. Their preferences, their tastes are going to change. They're going to have new opportunities presented to them. New industries are going to pop up. And they might just simply change their mind, right? How many of us have been in, you heard my brief, my very brief resume there, right? We've all probably been in that situation of career changing and bouncing back and forth between things. I like to think it's what keeps us interesting. All right, so I've broken this up into a little bit of like, if you're working with middle school youth, this is something you might want to think about. And if you're working with older youth in high school, this is something you may think about. So in middle school, we find it's really important to provide a variety of college and career focused experiences for youth and expose them to as many as possible different career paths, because you never know what's going to be interesting to them and what's going to jump out at them. Youth should be able to envision themselves in a variety of career fields, and integrating information about the variety of career paths available should become an active focus in middle school, right? Really exposing them to, this is the wide world of work and this is what it looks like. So through that, we've sort of, in the work we've been doing, we've really looked at like areas of focus for middle school, really focusing in on self-discovery. What is it? Who am I? What do I like? What's interesting to me? What are my skills and talents and strengths? How do I use those in the future? Do I want to use those in the future? Career exploration, again, what is available to me? And then building 21st century skills, really focusing in on those, we sort of minimize it down to the 4 C's of communication, collaboration, creativity. And of course, now that I'm trying to name them, I'm going to forget one of them, but they're in a future slide. And then these guiding questions that sort of support those areas of focus. What makes me, me? How do my interests, preferences, talents, and skills inform me about careers that I might be interested in? And what skills do I need to be successful in my future, right? Because the secret is that those 21st century skills, those work preparation skills, that's the secret sauce, right? That's really what people are looking for in terms of employment. That's really what is going to prepare youth today for the careers of the future is, can you pivot? Are you okay with change? Are you okay with communicating clearly and collaborating with others, and all of those skills, the technical, and I use that word not to imply technology, but the technical aspects of their job, right? Whether they're an author and they're writing, whether they're, computer scientists and they're doing that kind of work, That stuff is teachable, right? These other skills, they really have to build them as a strong foundation to be able to build on top of them. So then looking at high school, we take some of those same concepts and expand on them or go deeper in some of those aspects. So areas of focus for high school, zoning in on career exploration, especially if they have not had this in middle school, right? Because you may get high schoolers that are coming to you that haven't been exposed to the wide world of work yet. So I say ideally with a focus, because ideally they've already had this experience. They've already gotten an opportunity to see what's out there and explore a little bit and really discover interesting career options for them. And that they're coming to high school with a little bit of an idea of, this is what I think I might be interested in. This is what I think I might like to do. But you may really have to start that in 9th grade. Post-secondary exploration and decisions, really looking at what is available to me after high school and what makes the most sense for me and my career of choice. And then preparing youth for the workplace. And that sort of goes back and expands on that idea of the 21st century skills. So those guiding questions in this area is based on my interest, preference, talents, and skills. Which careers am I most interested in? So sort of joining those two things together of what makes me me and how do I use that to my benefit? And what education or experience is required for me to secure a job in the career fields of interest to me? So what do I need to know and how am I going to learn that? And where am I going to learn that? And what skills or knowledge do I need to be successful in the workplace? So taking those 21st century skills and going a bit deeper. What does that look like to be an employee? What does that look like in terms of my work? So let's talk about some of those skills, those foundational skills. So I've said this a number of times already, but just re-emphasizing the point of we can't know exactly what the workplaces of the future are going to look like. But we can prepare youth with some universal, increasingly valuable skill sets. And I think that's where we as OST folks really shine, right? We do that deep work of 21st century skills and building those skills and those relationships. And then information, resources, activities for teaching youth about problem solving, personal presentation, and socializing at work are key to the toolkit. So that's a lot of what you're going to find in here and a lot of what we're talking about in terms of career prep, right? And career readiness. So I wanted to share this with you. This is so these are attributes that employers seek on a candidate's resume. So this comes from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And each year they collect and compile data related to the top skills that employers are seeking in job candidates. So in more recent years, and again, this is from this specific one is from 2020. So not too out of date yet, although I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's changed, especially post-pandemic. So I'm gonna have to go pull this year's and see about that. But the trend has been that employers are most interested in the so-called soft skills, right? Which we really know are the foundational skills. And you can see that here, right? Problem solving is the number one. 91% of people who responded, of employers who responded to this said, we're most interested in problem solving skills. That's not taught in history class or a content area. I mean, it might be, right? But as a secondary piece of that, maybe. Ability to work in a team, strong work ethic, analytical and quantitative skills, communication skills, written, leadership, right? I think that's another place where we can shine. Communication skills, verbal, initiative, detail-oriented. And what these are 10 of them, the very last one is technical skills on this list. And 65% of respondents said technical skills. And that technical skills is really like what it takes to do your job, right? So I just think that's fascinating and completely complete proof of the work that we're doing and the approach that we are taking for that. So looking at building 21st century skills, again, we're focusing, critical thinking was the fourth one I was missing, the 4 C's. And again, this comes from the folks who like coined the term 21st century skills and sort of started building that as a movement. So while these are the most desirable skills from an employer's perspective, they're also the most challenging to find among potential employees, according to employers who are in the hiring process. So some activities. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat. This is a place where you can access all of the activities inside the toolkit that are mentioned here. And this is just one little part of the toolkit. So we have some activities in there: the cup stacking teamwork, time management list, compliment yarn, barometer. This is an activity about controversial issues and how to sort of communicate about those. Body sculpting, which is a theater-based exploration of important ideas, and town hall circle, right? So some of these may be familiar to you or similar to things you do or you know about. But the skills that they address are how to work and succeed as part of a team, delegation and leadership, problem solving and critical thinking, collaboration, how to effectively and efficiently manage your time, positive interpersonal skills, healthy and effective communication, creative problem solving, respectful listening. A lot of those things are on that employer's wish list, right, of skills. And so these fun activities are these activities that are just, we might consider them icebreakers or team builders or things like that. In reality, right, that's what we would probably call some of these things. They're really working on these deep and important skills. And so I always think don't underestimate the power of a relatively simple icebreaker or team building activity, right? Because it is teaching these deeper skills in a way that might really resonate and stick with youth. I don't think we ever really know. It's like, my husband used to say all the time when we were working and collaborating, coming up with a new project or new ideas, we're just throwing it at the wall to see what sticks, right? Throwing lots of things at them to see what sticks, what resonates with them. And once we sort of see that spark, then we can sort of follow up on that and sort of use that as a guide for how to move forward with them in the future. So we look at preparing for the workplace. So this is, again, a variety of new skills, concepts and mindsets that youth need to understand in order to be successful in the workplace, right? As hopefully successful women in the workplace, we know what some of those things look like, right? And we know we can see where those gaps are. We can see where, yeah, sure, kids are coming out and maybe they have what we call book smarts, right? But there's no, will they be able to work as part of a team? Will they be able to collaborate with others? Will they be able to delegate and lead a team if they're in a position of leadership? Helping youth understand what it's like to be part of a workplace community will set them ahead on their path. Giving them these experiences and this exposure to that, even if it's just following you around for a day and shadowing you in your job, right? Which we always feel like we don't have time for that. There's a lot to be done, but making time for that or finding volunteers from your community, and we'll talk more about that a little bit in a few minutes, but really helping them to see what a workplace looks like and can feel like and how it operates. And giving them that exposure over and over again in different scenarios can really be beneficial because, again, you don't know what they're going to pick up along the way. And then setting and maintaining high but achievable expectations for youth in your program and supporting them in reaching those expectations will go a long way toward preparing for the workplace, preparing youth for the workplace. And I think that's an important one is having those high expectations, right? Our program starts at 3 o'clock. We need you to be here ready to go at 3 o'clock, right? That's part of sort of modeling workplace norms, right? My job starts at 8 a.m. I have to be at my desk ready to go at 8 a.m. That means all my other stuff I have to have generally taken care of, with exception, right? Often there's traffic, often there are, travel and transportation issues, especially for our youth. But really, how can we help support them in hitting that mark? And where is that mark? And is everyone in our organization in agreement that that's where the mark is? And so realistic, but achievable and high expectations can be helpful. So inside the toolkit, there are some resources for workplace preparation activities. So all of the resources listed here. So there's workplace best practices. This works on like, how do you identify best practices in the workplace? What are best practices in the workplace? What are some examples of that? How can you be successful navigating that? Personal presentation. So this is how we present and conduct ourselves in the workplace and how that matters. Interviewing skills, right? So exploring skills and best practices related specifically to job interviews, and then work experience, right? Information on the wide world of work and what that looks like and how the different experiences youth might encounter, right? Are they going to have an apprenticeship? Can they expect an internship? What is the difference between those two things? What do those words mean? All of these resources here include an accompanying youth-facing handout. And that can be used to facilitate discussions with youth and or their families. It includes activities and simulations could also be developed from these resources if they're not already included. And so most of them are meant to facilitate discussions, and that's sort of the lens that they've taken, but there's a lot more opportunity there too than even what we've developed so far. I'm going to put all of these links together at the end for you all in one place. Well, you have the toolkit link, so it's all in there. But I'm also going to drop these in the chat in case anybody wants to take a deeper look at these. So then again, sort of building off of that, some of the toolkit resources for job preparedness and workplace preparedness, really looking at these activities that are included in the toolkit, crafting a resume, right, which addresses learning about resumes. What is a resume? What goes into a resume? And then creating a resume, right? So we recommend this for high school students specifically, but middle schoolers can certainly do this and really talk up and play up the experiences that they have had, right? Have you given a speech? Have you made a presentation? What programs have you participated in? What special experiences have you had? What special skills have you developed? So that activity really leads you through a whole process of drafting, revising, and finalizing a resume, a starter resume that they can then maintain and update ideally as they move through school, and getting them into that practice of documenting the resume worthy work that they're doing. And I use that in quotes. Can really be beneficial and helpful in terms of their future and being able to sort of not jump into that resume experience blind and really being able to navigate that more confidently, I think. There are activities specifically around practicing interviews, specifically virtual and phone interviews. Again, given the context of COVID-19 and the pandemic, many, if not most, interviews have moved to one of these formats. So it's a totally different way of having an interview, right? Through a video versus in person, over the phone versus in video or in person. How do you conduct yourself professionally when you can't see the other person on the phone? So there are simulation activities with guides and resources for youth, all accompanying. These all include a full activity guide and all the worksheets and templates that go along with it. And then the final activity here for these specific job readiness skills are email writing simulations. So how to communicate effectively in an email, right? How do you craft emails that have a professional tone? And so really, again, it's really about digging deep into what does it look like to be in a workplace and how do I conduct myself there? And there's some more links for those. Again, I'm going to put all of these together for you all at the end. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what you can do in the summer specifically, right? I know that's why most of you are here. So to the goal of working on building professional skills or 21st century skills, these are some ideas, mostly borrowed from the toolkit and the work we've done over the last 2 years with the toolkit and folks around the toolkit. Creating a mission statement and class expectations with the youth, right? Not doing this beforehand, but working with them to do this, to teach them about participation and collaboration and negotiating, right? What do you think is most important to be on this list of expectations? Or we used to call them best practices in our program, not rules necessarily, but what are the expectations and how do we all come to agreement on those and make our case for what we think is important in that? So there's a lot of skill building involved in that. Using role playing to practice how to respond in specific workplace situations, right? So again, some of those simulations play to that, right? The phone and video interview simulation activities are meant to be impaired youth activities. So they're working together to be the interviewer and then to be the interviewee and how to navigate all of that. Introducing youth to working professionals that they can talk with about their experiences, their pathway, how they got to their career. And again, that's reaching out to community members or family members. Would you be interested in coming in and talking to our youth? We used to host, our program was technology based. And so we would host a variety of like one semester we did all topic based panels, right? So we had a web development panel, right? So we had web developers and web folks come in and talk about the different roles that they played and how web development looked for them in their specific job. But someone at a startup, it looked a little bit different. It had a lot more responsibility because they were the only web developer on their team and things like that. So panels or roundtables are a great way to sort of get a lot of voices involved. You know, we would have them for, I think we did sort of web development, we did digital fabrication. And again, those were just our program's lenses for that. Arranging job shadowing opportunities, right? Or creating them, right? If you can't find somebody who's willing to take on a job shadower for a day or a couple of hours as part of a day, or your youth can't get to them, or things like that, is this something you could create in-house where they can sort of follow you and see what you do day to day? And you can just sort of, you know, guide them through that. Again, it's a shadowing, so it's not necessarily teaching them how to do your job, but giving them information about the important aspects of your job. Also, I think important for all of those things for people to talk about what they like about their jobs. And that it's not just work, but why do you do it? Why do you show up every day? What drives you to show up every day? Creating opportunities. These might be apprenticeships, internships, work study, job shadowing, leadership opportunities. You can create these all in-house, right? We used to have, on the next slide, you'll see a photo of our 3D print shop employees. So we created a group of youth who they were employed by the organization to run our 3D printers and manage that process for our summer camps and our after school programs, but also to take on community projects and client work and things like that. So, but they had a youth manager, they had a youth team, right? So it was facilitated by us and supported by us, the adults in the organization, but definitely run by them. So where are there opportunities within your organization or in your community that you can connect them to that gives them these experiences? And have at it. Let's have them all having all the experiences. You know, to me, an ideal scenario is like forget school, go to school half day and then go work, right? Go have an apprenticeship and see what that's like. Go have an internship and see what that's like. And I know that's not reality, but I think that that's a place where OST programs have some more flexibility. We may be able to make those connections. Games and activities that integrate the 4 C's and focus on those building those 21st century skills, right? We just talked about a few that we, again, sort of may dismiss or not see as much value in sort of the icebreaker team building exercises, but that's what makes it fun and keeps it engaging for youth. And then I'm going to go ahead and say, keep doing the work, the great work that you already do, right? You're probably already doing great work. You all aren't here starting a program from scratch next week. So what you're doing, how can you expand on that? How can you build from what the strengths of your program already are, and just layer on top of that to make it more meaningful or more engaging or create more opportunities. Because I think the exposure piece is really important. I just want to say that, right? We're talking about summer. We're talking about a few weeks, right? That you have access to these youth for this time period. How can you make your program might all be career focused, which some of you look like you're sort of in that. So how can you really hit that hard? Because you might not get to them again until next summer. And so what are the values and things you can hit really hard and really focus in on? And I would say, try not to do everything, right? Because that's probably not going to be most successful for you, but where can you go deep? Where do you want to focus this summer? Where can you then expand next summer or during the school year if you have more access to the same youth throughout that time period? But really about, I would say you pick wide and you hit a little bit of everything, or you go deep on one thing and do it really, really well, or one or two things, right? So here are our print shop kiddos, not kiddos, and certainly not anymore. I mean, this photo's a few years old now, but they're all grown people and tall and off working in organizations and having experiences. But let's talk a little bit more about this sort of specific career exploration right now that we've talked about foundational skills, looking at these sort of two facets. So again, this idea that preparing youth for the careers of tomorrow, whether or not they currently exist, is perhaps probably the biggest challenge education has faced to date, right? How do we prepare them for something we have no idea? School was built to prepare youth for work, right? That was the pipeline, right? You go to school, you graduate, you get a job. And we've given you what you need to be successful in that job. I argue that they're not doing that very well anymore. And it's taking a lot more support to get youth, especially underprivileged youth or youth without as much access, and youth without as many opportunities. It's taking a lot more to get them to hit those marks and to really be able to go into post-secondary experiences, whatever they are, with any amount of success. You all, I say we, but it's really you all. You're the boots on the ground folks. You can play a pivotal role in preparing youth in authentic and engaging ways. So exposing them to exploration of special interests, right? What speaks to them? I don't feel like there's always room for that in school, right? But there's certainly room for that out of school. What are you most interested in? What do you like? What do you think you're good at? Building relationships with trusting mentors, right? I think very few students get that in school, but I think a lot of students would say that they get that out of school. And using that relationship then to sort of encourage and support and provide more mentoring and more experiences and more exposure to things. And then this career exploration and preparation piece, right? How many opportunities are we giving them to explore different things? So looking at what are some of the things that we can do. These are career exploration activities focused on self-discovery and then career discovery. So this self-discovery piece looks like personality and interest inventories, right? Giving them some surveys. What do you think about? And there's tons of resources out there. There are lots included in the toolkit. What is it that you're interested in? Maybe you don't know. I grew up as a kid who didn't feel like I knew anything about myself. And I felt like that well into adulthood. So if we're giving middle schoolers and high school students the opportunity to say, you tell me who you are, right? And I feel like this generation might be a little bit better at that in some cases, but we can't generalize that out to everyone. And then inside the toolkit, there are two key activities for self-discovery. There's something called the This Is Me web, which leads middle school youth through the exercise of taking inventory of their interests and what they know about themselves already, with a lens on how it might help them make choices about high school, right? So if you're working with middle schoolers that need to choose where they're going to go to high school, or which activities and clubs and experiences or pathways or whatever they want to take in high school. I feel like we've made high school so complicated over the years. This will help sort of build into that. Can also be used with high school students. Again, everything can be adapted either way. And then there's an interest inventory that was designed for high school students that leads them through the process of taking inventory of their interests, strengths and weaknesses, and desires for their future, and then pairs them with an exercise in values alignment, which I think is really valuable. It's like getting them to envision and sort of daydream about what is the future you think you want, right? We used to talk to youth all the time, and they're like, well, I want to be a YouTube star. Okay, well, what does that look like? Tell me more. Tell me more about that. What kind of lifestyle do you think is going to come with that? What do you think the work of that looks like? Right? Because I think a lot of times it looks very easy to them, right? It looks like, well, you just put videos on the internet and then you're a star, right? There used to be this, my husband and I used to be app developers together and taught a youth after school app development club for high schoolers. And there used to be this thing we showed them all the time that was like, you do the work, you know, it was like A, B, and then profit, right? Like all the meat of the work was missing from the equation. And I think so often, especially in the world of influencing and digital media, it's mind-blowing what I think youth perceive as possible for them. And if that is really their goal, let's talk to them about the reality of that. Again, not to dissuade them, but to give them a realistic picture of the work it's going to take to do that, and what they're going to need to be successful in that. And again, none of this should be to deter them from that, but really to build up and talk to them about the reality of it. And let's think about what you're going to need to be successful in that. Let's start working on those things. And then in the career discovery piece, so let me just drop. So those two pieces, the This Is Me web and the interest inventory, are here at those links that I just put in the chat. And then Junior Achievement has a great, we partnered with them a little bit on the toolkit. So we've got some great resources from them included in there. They provided some links to things. So they have this career speakers video library. Again, so this looks at like the exploration part of careers. So they introduce people who work they've like organized everything into these career clusters, and then feature folks who work in a variety of occupations in those clusters, all through video, right? And so it's just a video library of these people talking about, so if you don't have community members who can come in and talk about their job, or you want to enhance community, what you've got from the community, or use it as a lead in to some community members coming in and talking to your youth, this is a great way to do that. They also include optional assignments, and it's all videos, which I think is really digestible for our youth, right? You might be required to complete an interest form to gain access to that, but that's just like, give us some information that they want to capture. I think it's worth it for the access to that. And then they have the JA Digital Career Book, which is a fully interactive site that allows visitors to explore career paths with a focus on their own interests and their local region. It's robust, it's informative, but it's all presented in a really clean and organized way. So middle schoolers can certainly navigate some of this themselves with some initial sort of support. And definitely high schoolers to be able to access that and use that themselves. And then from the toolkit, we have a guide on how to provide career fair experiences, right? So this looks at career fair or career day and what are some of the things, what are some of the considerations you might want to consider or think about and think through if you would like to host a career day or career fair event of your own to serve your own people, right? What are the resources that you can build in from the community? What resources do you already have in-house? Can you do this virtually? How can you source these things virtually? I'm going to drop those links for those 3 resources over there. And so, you know, really looking at, I think it's so, these opportunities sometimes feel so limited for youth, right? To go to a career day. Maybe they get that once a day and once a year in school, maybe, right? Maybe they don't even get that. So how can we ramp that up for them? How can we offer more experiences and give them more opportunity around that? All right, so looking at sort of career exploration, what are some tangible things you all can do this summer? Start by just incorporating intentional career awareness and exploration activities into your programming, right? Which I'm sure a lot of you already are, since you're sort of focused more on that career end of things. Creating career related projects, right? Centered on learning about possible careers. This might be like a presentation, or I don't know, something more fun than no presentation. In my head, that sounds really fun, but you know, some sort of interactive, right? Can they pretend to be that career for the day? What does that feel like? What does that look like? Like really centering, what does this career look like? Go research it and figure it out and come back with some deliverable, right? And some sort of shared experience that we can all learn from. Arranging college tours, right? This is a great opportunity for summer exposure because I don't think they're necessarily as popular in the summer, particularly if you're looking at younger groups. There may be more access available to them. And be sure to include community colleges. You might also have a large group of youth who are really interested in trade or things like that. So looking at opportunities where they could go visit alternative pathway programs and things like that. So looking outside, again, using your youth as a guide for where, you know, following their lead. What is it that the particular group is most interested in, or the individuals are most interested in. Conducting family career interviews. So having them go into their family, talk to their family members about jobs, careers, the path that they took to get there. If family members, you know, you can expand that to just be general community members, mentors, other folks, doesn't just have to be family. As we talked about, hosting career day or career fair, inviting community members to talk about their work. You can do this formally, right? Have it be a big deal. Or you could do this in small doses, right? Doing more of the roundtables or panels and having folks come in that are similar, right? Come from similar industries or come from different industries. And you want to talk to them about a specific group of questions, right? Tell me your job and what path you took to get there. And that might look different from a web developer to someone who, you know, is an electrician, someone who's an architect, right? They're all going to be different. So that could be interesting too. Arranging job shadowing opportunities, providing them in-house. We've talked about that already. And I think really just sparking interest in the conversation. Right? Let's start talking. Let's get you thinking about your career if you haven't already. What does that look like? Again, having those really meaningful conversations about what is it that you dream for yourself? How can we help you make it there? Right? And just getting them thinking about the possibilities of their future. If nothing else, lighting that spark, I think would be really, could be really transformational. not necessarily measurable, right? But, but could be transformational. All right, so I want to open it up to you all and invite you to either unmute yourself and share, or you can share in the chat box. What has worked for you? How have you integrated career readiness into your programs, summer programs, other programs you've been involved with, other experiences you've had, your own experiences? Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of experience already here, right? Outside of mine and way more broad than mine. So I invite you to share how you feel most comfortable.
Hi, Cameron again. So this year, this summer is like our full first year or first summer doing something of this caliber, more in depth. But we do a lot of arts-based programming at the Greenmount West Community Center. And this past spring, we were able to help the youth, the teens who were 13 years and older, actually apply for jobs, specifically within the arts. Along with that, we were also able to get them auditions at different high schools in the area that focused on arts, performing arts mainly. So that's how we have like lightly used it. And so this summer is where we're going to dig a bit deeper. So all the resources were definitely super helpful.
Oh, great.
Yeah, like really, really helpful. Like I looked through the toolkit. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
like,
there's a lot there.
It's a whole lot, but so super useful. And then I like the fact that you gave us specific links to certain pages, so we don't have to, go through the whole thing, which, eventually we will, but for this summer.
No, you won't have time before you start
Right.
programs next week.
Exactly. So I'm really excited to just dig deeper in this, because you're right. Like you said, like this isn't taught in school.
No.
And it's so unfortunate. And the population that we will be working with this summer have IEPs and special needs. So it's like, if this isn't necessarily taught in school, where are they learning this?
Absolutely.
And, teens with IEPs, they have to be in school year round, or the parent has the option to put them in a program like ours, where they are gaining these important, useful skills. So I'm so looking forward to this. This was so great.
Great.
So, thank you.
I'm glad you've already found value. That's good to hear.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing, Cameron. Anyone else? I see Christina put in the chat. In the past, I've worked one-on-one with students to write a resume. Yeah, so many students need support here. Yeah. We're going to start resume workshops and mock interviews this summer. I'm excited to see how they go. Yeah, the mock interviews, if you don't already have a template for that, or you want to check out the interview simulations, have some good resources in there and things that I didn't think about, right? If you're on a video, like what's in your video? What can you see? And here's a like drop of a pro tip that's different depending on the program you're using. Right? Your window is not based on what your camera is. It's based on the parameters of what the video is. So if you're using Google Meet, what people can see in your background is different than what they can see on Zoom. Might be different than what they can see in another program. So working through and using those virtual programs and getting them comfortable with, some of them probably are already comfortable with at least one of those platforms based on virtual schooling, but a refresher on that. And so that has some of that in there, which I thought was really good, especially for young people to think about. Because if I'm not, as an adult who spends all my time on Zoom, aren't thinking about it, like the likelihood that a 16-year-old is thinking about it is real slim. Anyone else like to share? Let's work.
So I just graduated from college, but before college, while I was going to high school at Western, I was in the upper bound math science for UMBC. And eventually during college, I worked for them too. But what we did is that we implemented in every Wednesday was professional dress day. So you have to go through your whole day going to class and figuring out what works and what doesn't work, because sometimes dressing feminine the entire time doesn't work.
Right.
Sometimes you're just too uncomfortable that way, or you're too hot because it's summertime. You need to figure out how to dress professionally during the summer, which is a lot easier to do in winter than it is in the summertime. So we're all hot, exhausted, walking everywhere all over campus to get to class, to get home, to get to eat, and go into your dorms. So that particular day, Wednesdays were awful. They were absolutely But we also had it so that the thing that we looked forward to every summer was the college tour, because we took a tour from, usually there's about 3 HBCUs we would go to, and then like a few regular out-of-state colleges. So we would go through the entire tour, just meeting people who went there, other students that go there, and it's a bus tour. So we're like going from Maryland to Ohio was the last one that I went on.
Oh, wow.
So we go do the music parts on the way, but we go to the colleges too. And along the way, one time I went to visit my college, and that ended up being where I wanted to go. So it was all because of one of those college tours that I even ended up graduating with a degree and being able to do everything that I'm doing right now. So I definitely understand the importance of those things, and having a college tour, it's fun. Yes. Kids like tours. We like them. We go.
Yep.
And we'd like to be able to meet other people and take all the notes and learn what it's like, because none of us knew how expensive it was to apply to college.
Right.
That's the one thing that you don't learn. And so I got lucky because Western is a historical high school. We get waivers to different colleges so that we don't have to pay the application fee. But paying $50 for a fee and you don't have a youth works job, so now your mom got to figure out what they're doing. That's difficult. It's difficult to try and figure out what you're going to do to even get to apply to the place you want to go to. Not even thinking about the loans or anything like that. It's just getting the application there is even hard. Right. So those tours explain those things, and it's something that you don't hear from anybody but the school you're trying to go to. So those types of tours, if you have the resources to do them, please do them, because kids do like them. Yes. We will go. We will sign the permission slips, pay whatever we need to pay. I'm so serious. They are the best thing ever.
Yeah. Especially if you can make it a trip like that, right? My sister, I have a sister who's 15 years younger than I am. So she went through high school much later than I did. And she just happened to be, Baltimore County offers the AVID program. And she got selected for that program. And that really was like, this is what everyone should be getting. Everyone should be getting at some point in their high school career an opportunity to go on a summer tour of schools, right? They went down to James Madison and they went to a couple places here in Maryland. They did sort of like a Maryland, Delaware, Virginia thing. But like, why doesn't everyone get that experience, right? Why isn't that built into a traditional high school opportunity, right? And yes, I totally second that, Carly. It was a world of difference. Watching her, I was like, man, if I had this, I would have had a much stronger start to college and career and what that looked like for me. And I probably had a lot more answers than what I ended up with. And that's just my personal experience. Carly, I love the tip about a professional dress day. That's exactly what I was talking. I kind of had this like line when I was making the slides about like model workplace norms. And I was like, no one wants to do that in their summer. That's not going to be fun. But
it is, like,
it is, right?
Because when you make it a culture to dress nice,
yes, yeah,
you know what
not
to do
every day, right? And not every day. I love the idea of just picking one day a week where you're going to come in, and that gives them this safe space to practice those skills, because dressing yourself for a professional environment is a skill, right? And it's not a skill that people are taught explicitly, and they may not have a model for that at home. Right. So, giving them a safe space to be like, hey, we're going to try this. These are things, this is what business casual means. There's a whole resource. There's a whole section in the toolkit under I think it's either under career readiness in the career readiness unit, or it's underneath the workplace preparation piece, about dress code and what that means. What do all those words mean? When someone says casual, business casual, what does that look like? And then they give examples of outfits, and it's all illustrated. It's like an illustrated like PDF. There's a whole section on that in there. So those are great. Thanks, Carly. Angela shared in the chat, we have had students run seminars with working professionals, get the opportunity to interview them in a group setting. Training has definitely, oh, thank you. Thanks, Angela. I'm glad that you've gotten some good ideas. Yeah, right. How can we put them at the forefront of the experience? How can we center youth at the experience of career exploration and what it looks like for them as individuals? And really, I love the idea. That was our panels, Angela, that we used to do the youth interview. They came up with the questions. We had input, right, as the adult leaders in the group. But they led those interviews, right? They chose and voted a moderator from the group of themselves, and then had opportunity for Q&A at the end. That's great. So in the interest of time, I'm watching it click along pretty quickly. I had an activity, but we're gonna skip that. It's a small group anyway, so it wouldn't have worked great. But we were gonna do the time management list activity, which is a super fun one if you haven't done that before. And I'll share the Jamboard with you all here. So basically the idea of this activity, it's from the toolkit. It's one of those building 21st century skill activities. You get randomly assigned to a group, your group, and whether you're doing this in person or virtually, right? You choose one person to be your scorekeeper. They're not going to participate, but they'll also be the judge of whether or not something qualifies for the score. You give them a list of activities. So the Jamboard contains a PDF link to that list in case you want to use that in the future. So that gives you an idea of some of the activities. That's why I shared the link with you, even though we're not going to do it. And then each activity gets assigned a point value. And so you don't have to complete them in any order, but they have to figure out how they want to manage their time. Some of those activities are worth 20 points. Some of them are only worth 5. So how are they as a group going to figure out how to gain the most points, right? The idea is to have the most points at the end of 10 minutes. And so the activity list is things like everyone in the room needs to do a lap around the room. You need to, how many pets, it was set up for a virtual experience like this, but how many pets can you show on camera? Can you list and name all the different pets in your group members, in your group? Come up with a group name and something else and add that to your Jamboard. So I just shared that with you as an example. Feel free to take from that as you see fit. And then we, of course, had like a little reflection about that activity of how did you feel completing it? What did you like? What were your pain points? Again, the activity guide is in the toolkit and you've got a link for that. So there's one more resource I want to share with you super quick. And it is, I'm going to go through this really quick. So it's called, so JFF Jobs for the Future. They have a possible futures curriculum, and specifically they have a career foundations unit that's pulled from the bigger, broader curriculum. So they are a national nonprofit working to drive change in American workforce and education systems. And this curriculum is a new project of theirs within the last couple of years. I think 2020 is when the first version came out, and they've been working on it since then. And it's a huge, valuable resource. So the possible futures, the full curriculum, is an interactive career exploration curriculum centered on STEM occupations for grades 6 through 10. Again, I think it could be used really more universally than that. They develop essential skills, right? Focused on those 21st century skills and how to positively contribute to their communities. There are 3 core modules in that, and then it's a digital curriculum with in-person, remote, and hybrid learning options. So they've really built this out to be this really big deal, I think. Oops, that's not what I want to do. I want to copy this link. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat for the curriculum, and then there's this cheat sheet that sort of gives you a breakdown of like the different options for hybrid, and that's just a Google Doc, but the other one is hosted like on their website. And I think this year they came out with a full student-centered version. So it's actually meant to be like, they could use it self-paced, which is a whole other level. Again, it's focused most on STEM careers, but that's okay. I'm not going to talk about these little bits here. I am going to drop this chat for you. So this is a link for using the possible futures in a summer bridge program, right? So this might be specifically applicable to some of you, or useful. All right, so then from that possible futures curriculum, they have taken they've taken 12 lessons from that, and they've called it the Career Foundations Unit. And so this was designed to provide the foundational skills, again, sort of thinking about those 21st century skills and workplace readiness skills, to be ready thinkers and young professionals. So the first 7 lessons draw from the Lenses on the Future unit in the possible futures, and then 8 through 12 draw from Skills for Success. It aligns very, very, very well with the CCR toolkit, very well. So I'm going to share this link with you for the Career Foundations unit. And these lessons are meant to build on each other. So there's an intentionality to the sequence, and it goes through some of that like self-discovery and what are the things that I'm interested in, what is my brand, is one of the lessons. It's good stuff. It aligns very well with what we've been talking about today. Here are some of the like guiding questions. So these are the first 7 lessons. How do my choices create my identity? What makes me me? Why is it important to know my spark? I mean, what is that? That's such a great question. It just takes this sort of holistic view to career education that I think is really important and definitely missing, right? It makes it personal, which it is, versus this sort of calculated, you should do this, 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 and this, and this is the pathway forward, when that's not necessarily the best pathway forward for everybody. Then they look through things on a society lens. What's my brand? When you look at me, what do you see? How can art raise the awareness of issues, which also feels like it would fit in with a lot of your programs, with an art focus. And then what's the difference between a job and a career? So thinking about security, right? What does that security piece look like? And then the second set of lessons really focuses on collaboration and communication. And these are some of the guiding questions there. How can I get you? That's great. If everyone asked that question in every conversation they have, can you imagine how different our world would be? What skills will make me employee of the month? That's super interesting too. All right, so we just got a couple of minutes. Are there any final questions? I'm gonna stop sharing. No, not yet. No questions. Well, I'm gonna give you, I'll give you I'm gonna actually drop my email address in the chat right now. So you can always reach out to me if you've got a question or problems accessing the toolkit, or, you know, I could probably find my way through the toolkit in my sleep at this point after writing it and then 3 years of teaching folks about it. But yeah, if you have any questions, that's there, you can access me there after the session if nothing's coming up for you right now. We do have an evaluation for you today, so I'm going to drop the link for that in the chat. If you can take some time and complete that, that would be really, really helpful for us and the Summer Funding Collaborative to know how we can improve going forward, and what worked best for you, so we can keep spreading the good word about career readiness. You're welcome, Christina. I see your message there. I really want to give you, I forgot to make this Google Doc for the, with the links in it. How about this? If you would like me to send you, I thought I had made that. I finished things up late last night and that just didn't make the cut apparently. If you would like me to send you a copy of all the links that I shared with you today with the like context for which link it is, I'm gonna put that together and I will email that out. So if you just wanna drop your email address in the chat, I will copy that over and I will send that out to you as soon as we wrap up today. Because I want you all to have pinpointed, again, that career toolkit is awesome, but there's a lot of information in there. And I don't want you all to be left to your own devices to have to sort through all that in such a timely fashion. All right, let me see. I got Carly, I got Sonia, Christina, Cameron, I love the spelling of your name, by the way.
Thank you.
Total side note.
Thank you so much.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, cool. I just want to make sure I had them all copied over. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Here on the last slide is the link to access the toolkit. I'll drop that again for you all. Come on. Nope. That will take you to the full toolkit, but I'm going to send you all, I will email you all a PDF or a Google Doc that has all the links included in there as well. If you have feedback on the toolkit as you're digging into it specifically, oh, I really loved this, but this was missing, or I'd really love some more information about this, as we're starting to think about what a new version of the toolkit could be now that we're a few years out from the original version. We've been thinking about what a 1.5 or a version 2 could look like. Please feel free to email info at MD out of school time, and we will make a note of that. And then for more information about MOST in general, you can hit mostnetwork.org is the website there. And we're just helping to support out of school time programs like you, like yours. So thanks so much for being here today. It was great to meet you all. I wish you so much luck in your programs. I wish I could pop in and see them all because they all sound amazing. But I hope you have a fun summer with your youth, and some of these things are helpful as you get going this summer. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.